So in the previous video, I just introduced the concept of content types. Now I'm just going to show you how to create a content type. So I kind of touched on the subject of how content types inherit from each other. And this may take a little while to get used to and to understand how it works, but we'll discuss it and go a bit further here. So I'm going to create a content type. I'd like to start using announcements in my organization. But I want every announcement to be associated with a particular branch location. In previous video, we created a site column called, or store location, created a site column called store location, and I'd now like to make sure that every announcement has a store location. So I could create an announcements list and manually add store location to each of those, or I could create an announcements template, list template that has the store location site column in it and save that as a template. Or more simply, really, I could just create a content type that inherits from the announcement content type and has my custom column in it, my store location column. So if I look at the announcement content type, I can see that it inherits from item. Every single content type inherits from item. Item itself has an inheritance of system. There are a couple that don't inherit from item, but they're very special types, so we don't need to worry about those. So first thing I would need to really think about and consider is, do I want to actually inherit from the announcement content type, or do I want to create my own content type and just, create my own fields? Um, it's important to understand this because if the announcement content type is updated, that may impact the content type that I've created. So I may want that behavior or I may not want that behavior. So I have to really consider this when I'm kind of building up what's called my information architecture, when I'm building up how I organize my information on my site. I need to think about these things. So for demonstration purposes here, I'm going to inherit from announcement. But if I just look at the announcement content type, I can see I have the title, there's the body of the announcement, and then the expiry date. So I could modify this content type, for example. I can edit the site columns, but this is a default SharePoint content type, and generally not a good idea to change kind of out of the box things that Microsoft gives you, especially if you don't need to. So I'm going to create a new content type here, and I'm going to call this my custom announcement. It'll ask me what I want the parent content type to be. So there are various groups. I believe it was in folder, sorry, list content types, and there's announcement there. So I could just inherit from item if I wanted to, but I'll inherit from announcement. And it'll ask me what group I want to create this in, similar to the site columns. The content types are grouped, and I'll put this in this custom content types group. I'll save it. And now it allows me to configure my content type and add columns if I want to. It also shows me each column where the source content type is. So I'll add from a site column. I'll choose my custom columns, store location, and add. And you'll see here actually when I add a column, I have the choice here. Do I want to update content types that are inheriting from this type? Well, at the moment, nothing is inheriting from this. We just created it. But if it was, the fact that I added this store location column would mean that every single content type that inherits from this would also receive that column. So very powerful, very useful, but potentially very dangerous if you don't want it. So it's important to understand the repercussions of the selection you're making here, especially because inheriting is chosen by default. So you could have some unintended consequences. So I'll press OK. And I'll see here, now is my new content type. I've got title, body, expiration, and now the store location. So I can now use this content type around my site and actually in all sites in my site collection. Similarly to site columns, the content types will appear in a site that you created in and all of the subsites. So it's usually a good idea to create your content types in your home site or root site. If I would have created this in the team site, for example, it would not be available in the home site. So again, important to consider these things. You may want those content types not to be available, so it's just important to know the behavior before you start creating these things.